You will be amazed to see what footballers actually used to eat, especially in the United Kingdom. Before games, Brian Clough, the legendary Nottingham Forest manager from 1975 to 1993, would occasionally hand out beers on the squad van. Yeah, you heard that right. I literally said beers. Man would crack one open with his boys. And as per another example, until the mid-1990s, Arsenal provided full English breakfast to its players before training. On one of the team's post-game bus rides, they conducted an eating competition, which was won by center-back Steve Bold, who gobbled 9 whole dinners. Yeah, he must have been hungry for like days or something. So in today's video, we're going to show you what football players actually eat. So let's get started. The rules of the game have changed. We know now a lot more about what footballers should eat than we did a decade ago. Many, though certainly not all, now actually eat those things that we talked about. Meanwhile, their feeding system has grown more into a mini-industry. Nutritionists from 35 countries, performance chefs, a new career in football, and players' private cooks met in an auditorium opposite the Camp Nou stadium for FC Barcelona's Sports Nutrition Conference on a sunny day in Barcelona in October. The British delegation was the largest. These fit-looking young people handed their fellow delegates the tasty, quote-unquote, functional protein muffins and non-alcoholic Bloody Marys that the clubs are now attempting to feed their players during the breaks. However, after listening to nutritionists, you'll realize that getting the players to eat healthy is just as difficult as encouraging your children to do so. Football nutrition remained unimaginative at best, even after Arsene Wenger became Arsenal's manager in 1996 and oversaw reform of the English game's most egregious refueling habits. Plain pasta for carbs and chicken for protein became the typical pre-match meal across Europe. Players would have to push down this breakfast or for, lunchtime kickoffs. But almost every locker room received a pizza delivery after the game. Well, it was a fact that everybody loves pizza. I love pizza, you love pizza, your grandma's eating pizza, everyone, anyways. Whether it's a famous football player or you binge watch Netflix all day long, you love pizza. So even innovative Arsenal only appointed their first part-time nutritionist in 2009. A year later, Barcelona's then manager, Pep Guardiola, a rail-thin health obsessive, named Antonia Lizarraga as a club nutritionist, making her the only second person in the Spanish First Division that held that position. Football, on the other hand, has become increasingly professional in recent years. According to FC Porto's nutritionist Vitor Hugo Teixeira, the distance traveled in sprints and high-intensity runs has increased for all positions, notably in the Champions League, implying that footballers require greater muscular glycogen reserves. The demands are always getting greater too. Players are not only playing more games, but they're also just getting stronger and faster. Smalling spent 9 years at Manchester United, where Teixeira saw the club develop a nutrition department with many nutritionists from various nations, one specializing in a post-match protein smoothie, another in injury recovery, and so on. Nutritionists are currently employed by all English Premier League clubs. Pizza and spaghetti were prohibited from Italy's squad camp at Euro 2016 and possibly the final sign of the game's turnaround, even if it was made from Coruscant wheat. Xavier Rousseau, chef to France's winning team at last year's World Cup, preached the rule of 3. 3 meals a day and 3 food groups. Carbohydrates for energy, proteins for muscle restoration, and fruits and veggies for health protection. Nutrition does not appear to affect football's performance, according to scientific findings. This is partly due to the paucity of medical study on the tiny demographic of professional players. Their bodies are far too unique to be relevant to the majority of public health concerns. Barcelona has revealed that their athletes have a number of paradoxical biomarkers, substances that are harmful to ordinary people but are useful to elite athletes. During the season, for example, their players have elevated cholesterol. Footballers have their own set of requirements. If a footballer pulls his hamstring, then he'll miss important matches. If the average office worker pulls theirs, it's gonna go unnoticed. However, because nutrition is one of the few aspects in performance that can be managed, clubs are now working hard to ensure that players eat the correct meals at the proper times. So here comes the best practices in the sport. If you're going to talk pre-game supplements, caffeine is by far the most popular pre-game supplement, not just in football, but in anything ever. According to Sports Nutrition for Football, a handbook issued by Barcelona's Innovation Hub, it increases physical, cognitive, and technical performance, partially passing accuracy. On match days, the guidance recommends caffeinated sports drinks and tea or coffee for pre-training breakfast. High-fiber vegetables like broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts should be consumed at least twice a week, but not just before a game because they're pretty gassy and they take some time to digest, according to Barca. Beetroot juice raises nitrate levels, but it's not for everybody. A video of a Benfica player downing a shot, grimacing and rinsing the flavor away with water was displayed to the conference. A player who works out requires a lot of carbs. A lot of carbs are going to make him fat, though, if he doesn't have a high workload. Maybe, because he's injured. If a team insists on eating pasta for pre-game carbs, they should eat it al dente, or quite firm, because soft-cooked pasta causes players' sugar levels to rise and then fall. And don't add butter or cheese. However, sweet potato, according to French sports nutritionist Thomas Rosé, is preferable. Body tissue inflammation tends to rise as the season progresses. Barcelona considers the months of February through May to be heavy competitiveness with several matches, travel, and sleep loss. Instead of taking football's typical painkillers, players should increase anti-inflammatory foods like broccoli, cherries, and bone broth during this phase. After training, a protein recovery smoothie, often customized for each player, has become a football rite of sorts. Players should consume proteins within an hour of the match's conclusion to aid in the recovery of injured muscle fibers. Immediately after exercise, the body is most sensitive to nutrition. Post-match is also a time when the club has some influence over what their players ingest. This is why Juventus has a dining table in their home changing room, whilst visiting teams frequently leave the stadium on a team bus equipped with a high-end kitchen and a top-tier chef. It helps that the new cultural preoccupation with nutrition has infected a lot of footballers. Rather than feeling like victims of injuries and bad luck, they try to minimize their stress by limiting their own intake and sticking to certain eating patterns. For example, when Smalling finally converted to vegan, he was hesitant to admit it, but United's chef was immediately supportive, even purchasing vegan recipe books. Veganism's skepticism in sports began to fade a few decades ago, when Carl Lewis and Martina Navratilova won with completely or mostly plant-based diets. It's no surprise that Smalling converted in his late 20s, when most athletes begin to pay attention to their diet. They incur more injuries as they become older, taking longer to recuperate, and they begin to worry about the safety and the longevity of their careers. Lionel Messi, a longtime fan of the Argentine-branded steak, eggs, ham, parmesan, and mozzarella meal, La Milanesa Napolitana, realized he was in decline by his late 20s. Through the 2014 World Cup, he was sick on field and exhausted, so he resorted to Italian nutritionist Giuliano Poser, who was forced to give up his favorite post-match pizza and warned about sweets. Well, maybe it's time for you to limit your pizza intake, you freaking pig. Nah, I'm just kidding. But otherwise, you will get a round belly soon, so maybe... So Messi went vegan during the season, shed 3 kilograms, and is still the best player in the world at 32. He says, if you want to get better, you gotta train hard every day. But without the right nutrition, that's not going to be possible. Cristiano Ronaldo, his competitor, modified his already strict diet in 2016, dropping from 82 kilograms to 79 kilograms in order to regain some speed. Despite the sport's nutritional advancements, most players continue to eat inadequately. Rugby players, according to Graeme Close, professor of human physiology at Liverpool John Moores University and former coach of the England rugby union team and many English football clubs, take nutrition more seriously. Every England rugby player has a personal performance plan that includes nutrition. Footballers, on the other hand, rarely do. According to Close, many footballers, particularly younger ones, either don't know what to eat or are served by someone who doesn't understand sports nutrition. Some of the players consume fast food. Some will declare that they aren't hungry and they refuse to eat the vital post-match meal. Some even refuse to drink a bottle of water at halftime, despite the fact that a marathon runner may use 11 bottles during the race. Managers can try restriction. Guardiola banned pizzas when he took over at Manchester City in 2016. But they can't break into players' homes and force-feed them, so meh. Even athletes who are engaged in nutrition may prefer foods that, look beautiful rather than ones that help them perform better. According to Nikki Kie, a sports and dance endocrinologist, female players have their own eating problems. They, like other women, are subjected to social pressure to be skinny, as well as financial pressure if they endorse trendy goods. Nutritionists, on the other hand, have a limited clout in most clubs. According to Barca's guidance, the head coach has the most influence on footballers' eating habits. He's frequently a reactionary who despises nutrition and refuses to let the club nutritionist attend team meals, even if he's aware of the nutritionist's identity. One nutritionist claims that she was only given 4 minutes to speak to the players about food, and that she ran across a club owner who wanted to exclude salmon from the team menu after hearing it was fattening. Steve Bold, an Arsenal player, once won an eating contest in which he ingested 9 dinners. Just wanted a little callback to that amazing fact real quick. Close was perplexed as to why inadequate nutrition remained such a lucrative professional sport. He responded, "Football is such a skill-based sport. In rugby, increasing body mass index and fitness can help compensate for a lack of technique. In endurance sports, the same is true." But as the English football manager Harry Redknapp said in 2018, if you can't pass a ball properly, a bowl of pasta is not going to make that much difference. Well, there's some motivation for you to keep eating unlike Messi or Ronaldo, huh? In this game, talent rules, and talent can occasionally afford to eat anything it wants, with little to no effect on performance. Many younger players, in particular, appear to be capable of playing world-class football on diets that are far from Spartan. Footballers, for example, spend less energy per match than rugby players, so let alone cyclists competing in the Tour de France. Clubs and dietitians may be left in a state of helplessness. Many football nutritionists, unable to impose their will, attempt to educate players. Some promising methods, according to Diogo Ferreira, a nutritionist who worked for Benfica, include a player showing his blood test results, pointing out deficiencies, and then drawing up a diet plan with him, hiring a full-time nutritionist to eat with the players, and make informal interventions during meals, giving players supermarket tours and cooking classes, and printing out nutritional information on their food trays, mandating hydration breaks or group meals, and also banning phones during meals. However, clubs frequently have to compromise on nutrition in the end. Many restaurant owners continue to serve typical cheesy pizza after the game. It may be high in saturated fat and sodium, but it's actually healthy compared to what some of the players eat at home. And so, my fellow friends, we've reached the end of the video. I hope y'all really enjoyed watching it, and if you loved it, I mean, would it kill you to like it and maybe share it, and then I'd be happy for a minute? Nah, I'm just messing with you. But, yeah, subscribe and all that good stuff, and then I'll make more of this stuff for you to listen to with your ear holes. Improv is great. Later.